At $376,000 raised 6 days into the campaign, Cyberpunk 2077 from CMON Games is one of the worst campaigns they've run in a very, very long time. What does it all mean? Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is... I don't know exactly what this is. This isn't the standard should you back it like I normally would do for a CMON campaign. In fact, I've specifically and intentionally avoided doing one because who really wants to be talking about Cyberpunk at the moment? In fact, I actually have a first impressions video coming probably at some point soon. First impressions because the copy needs to be sent on, unfortunately, so I won't have a chance to dive into it further. But even that, I hesitated because right now, people are currently loving on hating CMON. Which means I have to ask myself at any given point, which video is going to hurt me more than it's going to help me, and is it worth wading into this thing, including this video? And the short answer to all of the first question part is, what does it all mean? The main answer is mostly nothing. Not nothing. There's definitely pushback, but this is not the disaster that people are trying to make it out to be. This is, to a certain extent, expected. It's worse than I would have expected, but certainly expected to a degree. Let's give some context here. Let's go ahead and have a conversation about this. Cyberpunk 2077 from CMON Games is their 51st campaign ever, Marvel Zombies being their 50th, the anniversary 5th edition, their highest funded campaign to date, one of the highest funded campaigns in the Kickstarter ecosystem at all entirely, and also that means that when there was pushback on that, it was affecting the largest number of backers they've ever had. You see, in Marvel Zombies, I've done multiple videos on the subject, multiple people have done multiple videos on the subject. With Marvel Zombies, the shipping prices for the game absolutely blew up. Like, absolutely blew up. There's no question. It went from, $70 estimates, or less than that. I don't know if you have to double check the chart or whatnot. But they significantly increased to the point that some people are paying $200 plus in shipping. I think there are some people paying $300 plus in shipping on estimates that were significantly lower than that. And people were understandably not happy. And that led to a lot of pushback. A lot of attacks, a lot of people bombing every single stream or video CMON did to try to attack them, commenting on every single social media post, and even now in this campaign, months later, jumping in at $1 to aggressively attack the comments. And while I strongly disagree with the way it's being handled, I understand where that comes from. When you feel screwed over by a major corporation or whatnot, which CMON is not a major corporation, but within the board game space, they're one of the larger ones that we have, at least the larger ones we have that still seem to pay attention in any way, shape, or form, meaning Fantasy Flight's not listening or putting you a place where you can comment. Asmodee doesn't have a social media interaction where you can go ahead and jump on it. CMON is one of the larger companies in the space that still maintains an active social media presence and a degree of engagement with the community. And that makes it easy to take out your frustration, which a frustration that I understand, and to do so in the way where you feel some degree of control. What else can I do? I just got screwed over. How else can I in some way do something about this? There was lots of different personalities and how they react to that. Some people, like myself, are more inclined to just be like, it is what it is. I don't love it, I don't like it, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Some people might file credit card chargebacks, and some people might take to social media with whatever degree of feeling of control that they can have. And that also means that a lot of people are quick to call for the death of CMON, that Cyberpunk 2077 being the worst funded real campaign. When I say real campaign, I mean CMON has always done two types of campaigns. The more common campaign is a full campaign with stretch goals, with everything, with all of that. And then occasionally they do these offshoot campaigns where it's like, here's a game and here's 2 stretch goals and nothing else unlocked the entire time. Buy it or don't buy it. Arcadia Quest Riders would be a good example. The Animation Collection would be a good example. Zombicide, Night of the Living Dead would be a good example. I don't know why I pointed that way. That's where my Zombicide collection is, but I don't have Zombicide, Night of the Living Dead. And when they do those campaigns, they tend to do a little worse, sure. But when you consider their major campaigns, I don't remember the last time we had a campaign as bad as Cyberpunk. Now, we've had games that were close, campaigns that were close. If you look at Master of the Universe, which was a fairly recent one that didn't have the IP of Marvel United, that didn't have the IP of just Zombicide or any of their traditional campaigns, or relaunching of Massive Darkness. When you look at Master of the Universe, the traction of Master of the Universe compared to Cyberpunk is fairly similar. Master of the Universe is a little higher, and yes, I know some of you will point out, but that was region locked, so were there less people who could buy it? True, but I mean, I'm trying to pick what I can. In the last campaign before that would have any degree of similarity in terms of not having a previous IP, either Marvel or something from CMON already, would probably be Trudvang. And Trudvang would be another campaign of theirs that didn't do well. Did okay, but did not do well. Coming in at around $1 million, and keep in mind, Cyberpunk 2077, with 10 days to go, and $376,000 so far, they might cross $700,000. they'll do decently. They're not gonna like, I don't think they're gonna cost $1 million at this point. I don't think so, not unless there's some massive unlocks. And so far, the campaign has a $110 base pledge, as well as having a single optional buy. They'll probably have at least one optional buy. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But they have stretch goals coming in. This is a standard CMON campaign to that end. And it's an area control game. It's an area control game that is solid. We'll talk about this more in my first impressions, but I had no interest in this campaign, although I did correctly say a while ago that CMON campaigns when CMON is something new, I typically have no interest in it. And then along the way, I become interested. Sometimes they work for me, sometimes they don't. Bloodborne, had no interest in that one. Didn't like the game at all. I did not like Bloodborne one bit, even though I had no interest, became very interested, got the game, played it, and wasn't for me. Then there's Project Elite, another one that I had no interest in, then ended up back in the game, and, well, I really enjoy it quite a bit. Masters of the Universe, had no interest in it, I don't care about the IP at all. And then I played the game, and I really like Masters of the Universe, although to be fair, it's basically similar to The World of Moloch Rise of Smog, which is a game that I love, so that happened. And then we have Cyberpunk, which I haven't played. Godfather Corleone's Empire? No. What's the Godfather game? It's Corleone's Empire, right? I haven't played the Godfather CMON game. I have not. I've read the rules 3 times, haven't gotten it tabled. Supposedly, from what people have said, based on watching the Dice Tower playthrough and comments and whatnot, it seems to have similar DNA overlap. I didn't get that as much from the rules, but I understand at a higher level, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I read the rules for Godfather Corleone's Empire. I know the whole way it works. It seems to have a high level similarity to Cyberpunk, without being that similar past that. But I expect I'll like it. I mean, I like Cyberpunk. I expect I'll like Godfather as well. Although price point-wise, obviously they're different. Although price point-wise, you're also getting different stuff. We have plenty of stretch goals still coming in. CMON is doing, every 10, 15, 20k, they're dropping their stretch goals, which is what people seem to want. The only problem is they're getting it on a campaign that's doing 376,000 right now, possibly trending towards 700,000. And it seems like CMON has kind of walked into this one expecting this to underperform. And I think that's true for a variety of reasons. And I think this was set up to not fail. Again, a campaign hitting 700,000 is not a failure, but comparatively speaking, for a CMON campaign, it is. And I think there are a lot of people excited to see that. The pushback, the lashback, like, this is how it works. You screw us, you get screwed. And people want that vengefulness. And if that makes you happy, by all means, hold on to that feeling. Don't let the rest of this video ruin it for you. In fact, walk away from the rest of this video, because I just don't think it's quite that level. Make no mistake, I think there is pushback. I think there are people who are very upset about the situation, and I think there are people who will not back CMON campaigns. And honestly, my own advice, and this one always bothers me to say because I feel bad, because it's advice that is hurtful to CMON, but it's the advice I'll give you. You should be backing CMON campaigns at $1. You should. Practically speaking, you should do so. Even now, with the fact that this campaign, if you missed it by the way, has $50 to $60 as the estimated base shipping cost for the base pledge. That's akin to what you paid for the Marvel Zombies base pledge. Marvel Zombies coming with a lot more stuff, at least so far. So $50 to $60 is the estimated base price point. Now, one of a few things happens here, and we'll talk about that part later, but one of the problems with CMON campaigns in the past has been their shipping price always underestimates. And it seems that they, this time, walked into it saying, you know what, we're not going to play that game. People are upset about that. Fine, we'll adjust it. We'll estimate what it's going to cost. Now, one of 3 things happens here, and I know which one I would do if I were CMON, but I don't know which one is actually happening. Option 1 is $50 to $60 is the roughly accurate shipping price, and that's what you'll accurately pay in the shipping pledge. If you are a US resident, obviously the shipping table is different for every person. If we go ahead and look at that, we can go ahead and see this down here. Let's find it. There we go. So this pledge over here, this table over here is going to give you the shipping prices, and you can see all that over here. Option 1 is they estimate accurately or accurately-ish to what it goes. Option 2, which would kill them, this would really hurt them as a company, is if even that was not accurate. Not accurate in the sense that it's more. If that $50 to $60 estimate turns into $70 to $80, jumping up by $20 on an already high price point, that is not going to do well. And that's why I would say that, practically speaking, the advice I have to give you because it makes sense for you, it is the right option, is you should back this campaign at $1. Do you want to find out later that $50 to $60, which you're already on the fence about, actually turns into $70, $80, and at that point you're like, screw the extra 20 figures, I may as well get this at retail? Honestly, and you should get it at retail, it's a good game, but at retail it's going to be like $80, $90 tops, and tops. I think it's going to be even less than that. And you'll get a good game without all the extra stretch goal figures. The stretch goal figures are nice, make no mistake, but they're not essential. These aren't characters you're playing in Marvel Zombies or whatnot. This isn't something that's going to be really something you can highly identify. Many of the stretch goal characters are just things that are extra characters you can hire. They're nice to have, but they're less essential than many stretch goals I would say are there. And so if you want to get this game, but you just want to get it at retail and pay half the price point, you already can. And if they further add $20 to $30 in the shipping price and it just goes ballooning through the roof, backing at $1 is a safer move. CMON has not given you an incentive not to. Sure, there's no dollar pledge over here. If you check the sidebar, there's no option there as far as a dollar pledge. It doesn't have that. But if you look at the FAQ, they say make it very clear. If you back at $1, yes, you can go ahead and jump in on the pledge manager. Not a problem at all. And you know what they haven't done? And this is the kind of thing that you would have expected them to do. I would have expected them to do this, and they haven't. And so if you're going to attack them and harass them for every single time they go through a salesy marketing tactic, at least give them credit when they don't. If you want to encourage good behavior, reward it. What they have not done, which I believe they should have done, from a pure marketing standpoint, if they were self-interested, if they cared about themselves purely and alone, what they should absolutely have done is said, this is $110 in the Kickstarter, and yes, you can late back it all you want, but it's going to be $120 in the late pledge. That is 100% what a company should have done in this situation if they cared about their bottom line. CMON knew full well they were walking into this campaign with a high degree of pushback from the audience. There was never a question about that. The question was what degree of pushback would that result in? But they knew that was going to happen. And if that high degree of pushback was going to result in a lot of dollar pledges, which many people have said, this is what we're going to do from now on, and I understand and think you should, then CMON should have said it's going to be $120 if you up your price in the PM. They should have incentivized you with the FOMO. They should have incentivized you with the, here's the price now, and here's the price later, you decide. And they didn't do so. Now, I'm not saying that you should, send them a gift package of flowers and chocolates and all those things, but I am saying if you're going to give them a hard time for the salesy things they do, if you want to reward good behavior, you should appreciate when they don't engage in that. I know I certainly do. And so that's one thing there. But past that, going back to the shipping prices, option 1 is the $50 to $60 is accurate. Option 2 is $50 to $60 is an underestimate. That's why I'd still recommend backing at $1. It's the only advice that makes sense for you because they have not given you that incentive not to. And option 3, and this is the one I would go for if I were CMON, is that it's an overestimate. Is that you walk into the shipping prices later and you see that $50 to $60 pledge, $50 to $60 anticipated cost, is actually $35 to $45. That would really do well for them. Now, I'm not saying expect that. Do not expect that at all. But that would be, I think, the smart thing. CMON right now is a company that puts out games that I love. I love their games. Really, genuinely do. Many of them. Most of them. Not all of them. Again, Bloodborne did not work for me. Others of their games have been okay or just not been impressive enough. But what they're lacking right now is they're lacking a large degree of goodwill from the audience. They have plenty of fans, don't get me wrong. There's currently 4,400 people still backing this campaign, and more will join. And that's with an IP that I think is not going to pull people in quite as much. But while they have their fans, they also have burnt through a degree of goodwill. And so this campaign may simply be it's time to recover some goodwill conversation. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if not, but we'll see what actually happens with this one. But that goes back to the fact that I don't think this campaign is the failure people are making it out to be. I don't think Cyberpunk 2077 was ever poised to be a massive success for them. It was a game that was highly, highly anticipated. The video game Cyberpunk 2077 was highly anticipated by many people and became a massive flop after the fact. Now, flop is a relative term, to be very clear. Sales are through the roof. But the degree of anticipation to the degree of frustration, the articles again and again after the failures, the way it did not work, the way it did not pull people in the way they wanted to be, Cyberpunk 2077 was definitely a disappointment to many. And that means that CMON, who likely signed this license way before that happened, it's being based on the fact that they had a card game planned with this, they definitely signed that license way before that flop happened. That means this campaign was already expected to do less ideally. When we'll really know the consequence of CMON and the way they engage in crowdfunding, and whether people are or are not burnt out, and whether people will or will not throw money at them, the only point that we'll really know that is when we walk into the next Marvel campaign that they do. When they do Marvel Cthulhu Death May Die, which again, I'm just saying that out loud. I don't know if I have no such knowledge of any plans of whatsoever of them doing anything like that. But if they do a Marvel themed Cthulhu Death May Die, if they do a Marvel Blood Rage, if they do their next Zombicide campaign, and you can't compare the next Zombicide campaign to Marvel Zombies, you'd have to compare it to Undead or Alive or the ones before that. When they do the next Marvel United, if they do another one of those, when they do something that is standard and expected from them, and then it flops, and it's not something that's an edge case, it's not something that's different, it's not a new IP, it's not the immediately following campaign, and it's not with $50 to $60 listed in the shipping price table. This is hardly the first expensive shipping we've seen. We had this recently with Tiny Epic Vikings. Tiny Epic Vikings, which had like a $60 game with a $32 shipping price. And it's not the first time either. We had the Hanamakoji, a $45 game, whatever it was, with a $32 shipping price as well. Like just tacking on these large shipping prices to these games because shipping prices are getting expensive. You may not like it, you may not want it, you may be watching whatever videos you want about how inaccurate all the shipping prices are, and yet companies are closing. Companies are folding, and I don't know what you think those companies are closing from, but we're seeing more and more successful companies who have done well. Oathsworn with their $2 million campaign, Eldorado Games who've had multiple successful campaigns raising hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and companies that seem to be doing well are still closing down. They're still making no money. So you can extrapolate whatever you want from the situation. What does that mean? Why are they passing on the cost to us? But as long as people are making minimum wage or less so or nothing at all, then the reality is the shipping prices are having an impact. The state of the world is having an impact. We did not see this degree of mass closure of successful companies before this all happened. We just didn't. So you can say what you want. You can have a conversation about how it should only add $1 to the game or this or that, but the net result is that people are shutting down. Companies are walking away. Euthia canceling, saying, we just don't think we can make this work on a $600,000 2 days in. Doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense unless you just understand the practical reality is people clearly are having financial issues. Companies are having financial issues in a way they haven't had in the past. I don't know CMON's finances. I don't know their books. I don't really care. It's not my problem. My problem is to deal with the fact that, hey, do I want to back a game or not? For context, I have a $110 pledge in Cyberpunk 2077 because I really enjoyed the game. Again, I'll have the first impressions later this week, and I don't know what I'm going to do for that one because I don't want to wade into a crowd of disappointed people. Back it at $1 if you're interested. Don't if you don't. Or back it at more. Again, from a pure advice standpoint, I have to recommend that you back it at $1. I feel bad saying this because I like CMON. I have a relation with CMON, but the only thing that makes sense is backing it at $1 until they give you an incentive not to. And they chose not to do that. They chose not to force you into that position. This campaign will still do well. It'll still cross 6,000-7,000 backers by the time it's done. It'll still cross $600,000-700,000. It will still be a success in the comparative metrics of any other Kickstarter out there. Yes, it's a failure compared to a CMON campaign. That part is true. There's no denying that. But I think it's way too early to call for the death of CMON. It's way too early to ask what does this really mean. Even the fact, CMON was in trouble no matter what they did here. No matter what they did. Because if they put 35, people are complaining about the $50 to $60 shipping, right? They're complaining about, wow, $110 campaign with a $50 to $60 shipping price. That's insanity. The problem is they're screwed no matter what. If they put $35 to $45, people will be like, yeah, right, you liars. You haven't learned anything. You're still trying to take advantage of us. The goodwill would be burned through from today until tomorrow. Even if the prices were accurate, until you got to the PM, people would be pissed off and upset about the lying again. And the flip side is they put those prices, the ones they have right now, the more expensive pricing, and now they're in trouble no matter what. If the prices go down after the fact, they've lost a lot of money in the campaign, they've scared away backers, but they have earned some goodwill. Again, I think that would be the smartest thing. I don't know if that's the plan. If the prices are accurate, well, I mean, the problem is there are many people, even myself included, who are like, but what if it's more? What if $50 to $60 because CMON it has underestimated in the past? What if $50 to $60 is really $80 to $90? What if? There is that degree of fear, that uncertainty. So no matter what they did with their shipping table, they were in trouble. I think everyone, CMON included, expected this campaign to do not as well. I just don't think there's enough to read into quite yet. That's really it. There's not a lot more to go into here. The game's good. We'll talk about it in first impressions. The game's good. The game will still hold its value. The pledge will still hold its value, even more so if anything, because I know the game is good. I know it's an enjoyable game. I know people will like it, and I know that people, especially combined with the IP, will want to hunt down those figures. So if you want your should you back it here, the short version is you're paying a lot more for a bunch of figures that don't necessarily add as much to the gameplay as are necessary. So you might be paying $110 plus $60, $170 on a game that might run you $65 down the road. Might run you. I don't know the exact price down the road, but it might run you $65, $75 down the road at retail. So you're doubling the price of the game, and I don't think you're doubling the experience. So if you're talking about the pure experiential value of this one, I don't think you need to back this. Wait till retail. If you're talking about will it hold its value and are you a completionist who will want everything for a game you enjoy, then yeah, it'll hold its value just fine. And if you're a completionist, then go ahead and get the stuff. It's a good game. It's a solid game. That part I'm not worried about in the slightest. It's just a question of what this means for the next CMON campaign. It's just a question of what it means for the future. And that's all we really have. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, have a good one.